Hey everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to Wine and Real Estate.
Salut!
Bienvenue à Vin et Immobilier. Alors tonight we're going live with one of our friends. Well, Jennifer actually doesn't know her. Well, no, you've met her.
We did a real estate walk with Carina once, and it was really interesting. Everything that she had to say. So we wanted to have her on and talk about wine.
Yes.
We like wine. Yes.
Salud.
And to talk about real estate because we really like real estate, like
Yes.
everybody already knows. So while we're waiting for Carina to join us, we can talk maybe a little bit about the wine that we're drinking. It's nothing extraordinary, just standard
Our house wine.
Merlot. I think it's a Merlot
Carmener, I think is in
Carmener.
it, and it's oaked.
Yeah, so it's very good. It's just our everyday wine that we drink all the time, and
It's our tap. So we'll have to show you in our kitchen at some point where we keep all that wine. Oh, there you go, Carina's here.
there we go.
So, oops. Joining us. So we'll see. We have Island Flips joining us.
Hello.
Nice to see you guys. Hey, Carina.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good, you.
Good.
Super
Good to
excited.
see you.
It worked.
Yes. We had a hard time last time, but it worked well this time. That was easy.
Yes. Good job, Francois. He taught me everything because I was all off this morning.
Oh, yes. I'm not a techie person myself. Let me talk about wine and real estate. Don't ask me about Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, so François was actually telling me a little bit about your wine experiences. So I don't know if you want to jump right in and tell us
Oh my gosh.
story.
Well, I don't have so much of a wine experience, but I was telling Francois this morning that my brother-in-law, Roberto, shout out to Roberto, I don't know if he's here, but he is Portuguese, and in his family, they're very, very big in wine. If anybody knows Portuguese people, they're known for their wine. And he,
Yeah. I love Portuguese wine. We've tried a few of them. They're very good.
oh my gosh. And his family, it's been passed on from generation to generation. And he grew up helping his dad make wine from scratch. So you guys probably heard of Preston Hardware here in Orleans. So they actually sell like the grapes, and you buy them directly from them. They come yeah, they're Italian.
Your renovation material,
Yeah.
buy some.
Yes.
I have a bathtub. You can buy the bathtub, and then you can jump on the grapes in the bathtub.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that. And you can buy them and they come directly from California. And this year, they didn't think they were going to have them because of COVID and there's delays in import and all of the stuff happening. But it happened that they were able to get a small order in. So we ordered, I should show you guys the pictures. We did this like 3 weeks ago, and we had probably about 10 or 12 like big things of grapes.
Oh.
And then we put them in this his dad made the mechanism to basically crunch them up and get the juice out. And then once you have the juice, you let it ferment for about a week or so. It has to kind of all bubble up.
Okay.
And a week passed, and then we were able to get them in, they call them mayornas, which is basically the big tubs that you put the fermented grapes into and the juice.
Okay.
And then you leave them in the mayornas for like a few months. Like we're looking at 2-3 months.
Wow.
But once it's all said and done, we're going to get like 300 bottles.
Wow.
It's going to be like homemade. It's organic, purely organic.
Oh,
And like
great.
Roberto, whenever he comes, they have tons, of course, left over. And he always brings a bottle and it's delicious. So I was like, I want to make that bottle. I want that specifically. Yeah, and we're going to have like a whole bunch. So I'm going to bring you guys a bottle of wine when it's ready.
That's
That would be
exciting.
awesome.
Wow. Can we try?
Yeah,
So-
salud.
Yes, salud.
Salud, guys.
Nice. Yes.
So we're super excited to find out more about your business and what you do. I heard your podcast with Victor you were featured on Oreo not long ago as well, and we actually met you in person at a real estate walk in Ottawa, so that was fun. But
Yeah.
Find out more.
Yeah, tell us about land assembly. Why did you choose, like, there's so many different real estate strategies, like investment strategies. We don't do land assembly, but I thought that was super interesting.
I'd like to do it, but we need more wine.
We need more wine. But some people choose the burr, some people choose flips, some people choose buy and hold, whatever it is. But land assembly, I'm like, you're the first person that I actually meet that does the land assembly. So let everybody who's listening know what it is.
So land, okay, so I wanna make it all kind of connect, because what I actually do is land development, which is essentially we take a piece of land and it's very strategically purchased, right? The land, we've already identified which areas in the city we're able to either rezone because of its location. Maybe it's close to an LRT, or it's close to an area by the universities or the schools, or it already maybe has the zoning for intensification.
Yeah, because sometimes it's zone R4 and there's a house on it, single house.
Yeah.
Like, what's with this thing? Okay.
Exactly. You see this a lot in Venice, right? Hintonburg, Westboro, like all of these areas, Mechanicsville. These are all R4 areas already zoned for that. But there's still other areas in the city where the city is, they publish what is called official plans in the city, or they'll publish something that is called a secondary plan. And it basically stipulates what the city intends to do in that area. So when we go and analyze these areas in Ottawa, it's very strategically purchased so that we're going to change the zoning, or we're going to force the appreciation somehow, either by taking it, it's always by taking it from a low density. So maybe it's a house, like you were saying, Francois, or like a duplex, and then we're making more units in one piece of land. So we're intensifying that specific lot. The byproduct of that is land assembly.
Yeah,
so
cool. That's
it's just kind of.
We didn't even know what we were talking about.
Like land assembly, you put it all together.
So
it's okay.
Are you buying properties that have an existing house on it, or are you looking at empty land?
So far, I'm going to say 99% of what we've purchased already has a house on it. It's either a house, a duplex, triplex, fourplex, something already on it. And the reason why I love that strategy is because I can tenant it. I can get, the tenants to pay my monthly mortgage and operating costs. And in the meanwhile, I can go and work with the city, and I go and work with my team to get all the architecture, engineering, renders, all the permits that I need to basically allow me to construct something bigger and larger on that land. And it doesn't put me in a tight spot, it doesn't make us like, feel like, how are we going to carry this piece of land? If it's just land, how are you going to carry that? Also, like properties are usually are usually easier to finance.
Yeah.
Right? Land is a little different. If you've ever wanted to buy a piece of land, like not all banks do it.
No.
Not all B lenders, not all private lenders like it. It's just, there's nothing really coming in. So you kind of, and most banks are only like financing 65%. So you're putting a larger down payment to get into it. Although, mind you, I'm not going to say it is a good opportunity, some of them. So it doesn't mean that it's not. It just means that you have to be in a place where that's okay for you.
We missed out on one in Orleans. We told that story a while ago, and in wine and real estate, it's on Saint Joseph Boulevard. So if anybody knows, like Ottawa, East End, and duplex, and how much was it?
I'm not sure which one.
It was kind of about. The one by Shoppers.
Oh yes.
It was kind of ridiculous. Yes. We're like, it's $700,000 for a duplex.
Like, it's just way too much. It's ridiculous.
Let's not buy it. Then it went up 1.9 million because it was down because it's close to the LRT, and it sold right away. At
Yes.
1.7 or 1.9.
It was 1.9. 1.9. So it went for, we thought it was too much at 700, but then they got rezoned and sold for 1.9.
Yeah, so we're like, oh,
What?
just out on that one. That was like an easy $1 million, but
Yes, very
anyway,
Oh my gosh.
to help us.
Yes. So what made you get into land development or land assembly? What attracted you to that real estate investment strategy?
So it's kind of funny because I kind of just stumbled on it to be really honest. Yeah, like I was doing the typical buy and hold strategy for many, many years. Back in 2009, my husband and I were doing that, and we did that for a little while, for 4 or 5 years, just buying and holding, buying and holding. But then of course you get to that max spot, right? You get like, the banks don't want to look at you anymore. And I went to every single real estate event that I could go to at the time. I was just like absorbing information. I was trying to learn everything. And it just happened that in one of those events, I sat next to a girl. Her name is Jessica. Hey, Jess, she's still one of my really good friends. And her husband were doing infill developments in Venice.
Okay.
So yeah, so they take these lands that are R2 zone, and then they demolish the little tiny home on it, and they'll build two semis on it.
Oh.
And that's what they were doing. And that, to me, I was like, what? Because the whole time I was going to all the seminars, it was like, how do you flip homes? How do you burr, or sell to yourself, or these different terminologies.
Yes.
And yeah, and I was like, okay. So when she told me that, I was like, zoning? What is zoning? And how do you know what to do that? And construction and her and I really clicked right away. And she taught me, and I was in, funny enough, I was in maternity leave for my second child at that time. So I spent like my whole entire maternity leave just with her and learning everything. I absorbed. I became like obsessed, literally just obsessed. And she's so sweet because she taught me everything. And Francois, I invited Jessica to our walk. So one day she's gonna come to our walk.
Good.
That's
So you'll get to meet her. And yeah, I just learned everything. And then we were looking around and I found a bungalow close to the LRT, and I told my husband we have to buy it. Like it meets all the criteria, it's everything. And he was like, no, why are we gonna buy this crap? Because it was a crappy bungalow, and yeah, like, oh my God, what are you gonna do with it? We have to fix it and all this stuff. And anyway, I convinced him somehow, and we bought it. And that's the project that I just used as my little guinea pig. I was just like, I know it's close to the LRT. It was an R5. It already had the right zoning.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. And back then we bought it for $250 on an oversized lot. Like crazy. When you think of the numbers now, you're like, I should have bought the whole street.
Yeah, just buy the street. Have it renamed. Wow. Man.
And I went to the city with that, and I talked to the city. I got to have my pre-consultation. Jessica came with me, and I got to meet architects and engineers and renderers and people who do this for a living, and just really like use that as my way to learn everything I could, because now I had something substantial that I could go to Oreo events, and I went and talked to everybody about it. Yeah, and now you can talk about it, you can pass information or ideas, and people are interested, right? And that's what I did, and I developed plans to do a 12 unit on that because it allowed for it. And the city at the time, it was Bob Manette, because it was in Orleans, and it was Bob Manette.
I forgot about Bob.
And he didn't like it. Like, he was not supportive of it. And people who know Bob Manette, this is typical, because he was not supportive of a lot of intensification at the time. And he said to me, I remember so clearly, Jessica was with me, and he said, I love what you want to do, but you're two years ahead. Like, you're looking at 2 years from now. So I said, okay, no problem. I'll just wait. You know, I had tenants.
And the zoning's there,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, tenants were paying and no problem. It literally cost, I think we put $1,000 into like fixing a couple things
Wow.
here and there. It was like nothing. The tenant is awesome. And then what happened was, of course, 2 years passed and developers were like knocking on every door.
Yeah.
And my tenant would be like, here's 5 like messages from people who want to buy this house. Anyway, so then a developer, I ended up flipping the paper. So this is my strategy. This is how I stumbled on to number 1, land development, and number 2, in flipping the paper strategy. So anybody that knows me, maybe you don't know me, I tell people when they ask me like, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't flip houses, I flip paper. That's all I do.
Well, it's work, but it's a different work.
Yeah, it's different work.
So what's the difference, Carina? Just so that people who are listening know what's the difference between flipping a house and flipping a paper?
Yeah. So the difference is basically I've gone to the city. Oh, let me go back. I've already done all the plans. I have my site survey. I have plans. I have architecture. I have something substantial that basically allows you to build what I've designed. So I've already talked to the city, and it's either I've gotten a go-ahead from the city to say, yep, you can do this, or I've gotten approvals from the city, like actual permits in place that you can pick up from the city of Ottawa and you can dig tomorrow. Like it's a golden ticket.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. It's a golden ticket. And I can say, here you go. Here's your gold ticket. You can build tomorrow if you want to. Or you could just keep the tenant that's there in the meantime and get all your financing and construction financing in place. And then you dig whenever you want. That's essentially what I do. So I flip the paper to somebody else who wants to do it, and they pay me money to do that. So I've done nothing to the property. I've done all the work with my team, because I have my whole team now. At this point, I have my architects, engineers, I have renderers, I have artists, I have people that work with me to make all of this happen. But essentially, we've done it, and I'll flip the paper. I'll flip it for a profit. And I've done nothing except for managing the property.
But you've added a ton of value. It's still on paper, but it's a ton of value.
And it can still be a lot of work. Like I'm sure, like you said, you're working with architects, designers, engineers. Maybe. It's a lot of work to go through all those steps to get the paper.
So
it is totally. I'm not.
But I don't think it's that
you make it sound too easy, Carina. I'm just flipping a paper.
I know.
Just take it and flip it.
I know. You're right. I totally make it sound like it's easy, but you know, it is work. I always tell people I have a project management background. So I used to be in the IT world. I used to do project management. Anybody who knows project management, you're managing schedules, you're managing teams, and you're managing budget. That's essentially what you're doing as a day-to-day. So for me, it wasn't a huge transition to go from project management in the IT sector to property managing or project managing, like these types of projects that I do right now. It's essentially the same thing: budget, timelines, and people. Wow. And these are the people that are doing it. Yeah, and it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. I know I make it sound like that, but it's not. But once you get the hang of it and you do it, you can kind of slowly scale up and do more like larger and more complex type of projects, which is what I'm starting to do now that I'm in my 5th year of doing this. I feel like I'm on my way to scaling it.
Awesome. Wow. Congrats. Can you give us any details without revealing too much?
Yes. What's Carina up to?
So this is what we started doing now, is more of the land assembly stuff. So this is where, we were talking about land assembly. It's a byproduct of what we are already doing. Essentially, land assembly, for anybody that doesn't know, is instead of taking one piece of land, which is what we've been doing for the last, 4 or 5 years, is we're taking the next 4, 5, 6 pieces of land next to each other, so that then we can create a big assembly of land, putting it all together, and now you're doing a bigger project. Now you're
build a skyscraper or some, well, not a skyscraper.
Yeah, maybe not a skyscraper next to a bunch of bungalows, but
yeah, but maybe something exactly. Maybe you're doing 3 or 4 buildings next to each other, or you're doing 5, 6-story, 8-story buildings, as opposed to maybe a 12-plex, something like that.
Well, that's great that
So,
you're meeting a need, because there's a housing shortage
Yeah, it's
in
horrible.
Canada, well, and in Ottawa. So you're meeting that need where there's tons of little bungalows that aren't doing much, and a lot of people are retiring and leaving those bungalows. So
yeah.
places, they need to densify the city. So that's a great project.
Yeah, you're doing a service, because really we go around, well, our neighborhood, some of the streets are older and some are newer. And the bungalows have like 15 feet in between the houses, like more like 20.
Yeah, some of the
20
lots
feet
are
apart.
huge, like 150, 100 feet. I'm like,
So you
wow.
could squeeze in a few bungalows or tear the whole thing down and build a new development completely, something, a new purpose. So
that's a great idea.
Well, that's exactly it. And like I've been working with the city for quite a bit now, and I'm very involved with what the city's doing. And for any of you who are, real estate investors and just want to learn more, the city, and this is every city, not just Ottawa, every single city has planners that they work very, very, urban planners, I should say, that work very hard in developing the strategy of how they want the city to grow. And how they do that is by creating plans. Basically, they call them official plans or secondary plans. But specifically, Ottawa is very, very big right now. They're pushing very hard on intensification, in pushing more housing, like you were saying, in these larger pieces of land that maybe are underutilized.
Yeah.
And we need to now create a little bit more in the same space. And the city is really helping out a lot in creating new policies and bylaws to allow people to do that. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys know this, but in Vanier, Hintonburg, and Mechanicsville, Westboro, they just rezoned the entire R4. So R4 zoning, guys, I don't know if you guys know this or not.
No, that's why they're selling like hotcakes. We looked at some properties, like, crazy people are fighting, and it's like a little house. And it's R4. Wow.
R4.
That's
so the new R4. Yeah, and the new R4, where before you could do like four units, now you could do 8.
Oh,
and in the ones that you could do 8, you can now do 12.
Wow. So
the same lots, these guys own them. Now all of a sudden, like, they're worth more, because now you can do 12, units in it. Wow. So the city is changing a lot, and they're doing this in other neighborhoods as well, not just Vanier, not just Mechanics or Hintonburg. They're doing it in other places as well.
Yeah.
So they're really
belt, though, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
But did you guys know that the city also just expanded the urban boundary?
Yes, I read about it. What did that change? I didn't read on it, but I just read it. Sorry.
This is for us, like, land developers. We really look into this, because this is basically the city giving you a bird's eye view, like 10, 15, 20 years out.
Where's it going?
What is going to happen? Yeah. So now you can be like, well, now this farmland that used to be here, let's say maybe it's Greeley or something, eventually the city foresees this area to be like a Canada. Okay. So, yes, it's 15, 20 years from now. It's going to take time to get there. But if you're able to grab a piece of land that's maybe, this is how they did it back in the day. They used to have, farmland that was like 30, 40 acres. And then, Minto and all these Mattamy and all these big developers now are grabbing them up, because these are the prime lands for communities.
Yeah, and they just rent it out for cash crops until the zone. Yeah.
Until they zone it, until the city came in.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So that's essentially what is happening here in Ottawa. Again, all over. Like this is like 50 years ago this happened.
And
This is
now,
happening all over again. And I don't think a lot of people really understand or take the time to look at that as an opportunity, you know,
yeah,
because it's not something that comes around very often.
no, huh.
And I'm not saying that it's easy either. It's not that I'm saying it's easy, but it's an opportunity for
Yeah,
somebody who's looking for an investment to say, hey, you know, I'm going to retire in 65, which is 20 years away from now, maybe. Maybe that's a good opportunity for me to look at.
yeah,
And the city publishes a lot of plans, like actual maps that you can take a look at and you can like dig in and see what is the best place for me to buy
wow,
That's
if I
great.
was to look at it. So as a land developer, this is what I look at. This is what I do every single day is looking at how is the city changing? What is my next move? So Dave and I, my husband Dave, I don't think you guys have met him. I
no,
can't wake him up at 5 a.m. to go our 5 a.m. So,
Come on, Dave.
but that's what we do is we go into these areas because I've done the research and I know, okay, where can I go and buy before everybody else does?
yeah,
That's
So that's how it works.
yes.
wow, this is,
Yeah.
wow.
And that's kind of where you need to be because the Burr strategy, I think, is kind of
Yeah, it's losing its breath.
well, it depends a lot on the market, and the market seems to be uncertain in certain
Oh yeah.
you know. So I think that you
Like
kind of have to be
appreciation.
looking outside of the box. Like François and I were always brainstorming and trying to think, okay, we got to look outside the box. The Burr is not always working. Buy and hold is good, but it's
Mhm.
long term. So
Using other people's money, it's not always feasible.
yeah.
That's
Getting
true.
a take back, sometimes we got it, but it's not beneficial. I'd rather just buy it myself. So you have
Yeah.
to keep thinking and questioning your model. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, land for sure, they always say they won't make any more land. So,
There's no more land. That's true.
yeah,
And that's the thing, you brought up such a good point, guys, is that, you know, especially for us as real estate investors, when we're using other people's money, OPM, you know,
yeah.
you have this responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You need to make it multiply and be fruitful.
Yeah.
Because it has to multiply for them and
And for
multiply
you.
for you.
Because it only multiplies for them, that's great, but
You work
what's
for
in it for
nothing.
me?
Yes.
No. And that's not what we're in for, right? Everybody's in this to make money and to grow together. You know, whether that is to make it like a shorter term, you know, 2-3 year term or maybe less, or you know, cash flow every single month, whatever the case, but we're in it to make money. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this business for no reason,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing about land development is that I find you're right, is that everybody I find is looking for the burr
Yeah.
or the flip or the whatever other strategy that I've seen over and over again. I think that's what really attracted me to land development, to be honest, is because
Not as
yeah, like it's kind of like it's a weird niche in the sense that people are very scared to go into it because it's scary. It's very unknown and it's scary. Like it is actually, to be honest. You have a lot of upfront costs that you kind of have to do enough homework to make sure you keep that down as much as possible, but you don't see the profits until the end. Kind of like your burr, right? Like you got to put the money in and you got to make the place beautiful, and then you have to refinance it to actually make money.
That's it. And then
So
you hope that the appraisal goes in right.
yeah, you know, but the good thing I liked about land development is that not everybody was going for land development. Like I didn't have a lot of competition. Yeah, not a lot of people in it. And there's this kind of like in between phase where you could be like an infill developer, which there are quite a few infill developers here in Ottawa, that like all of these guys doing Vania, for example, or Hindenburg and all these guys doing it. And then you have the big developers like Witchcraft and Madame and EQ Homes, and these guys doing massive. Or what's that new one here in Orleans? The one that just exploded. Taiwan, like another huge one.
Yes.
So, but there's this, yeah, it's crazy. So, it's kind of in the middle. I'm kind of in that middle space where I'm not really
Not a
like
little guy, but not a big guy. And
mhm. So I don't know if you guys heard of the missing middle here.
yes,
Yeah,
you are the missing middle.
Yes.
I'm part of the missing middle. Cheers to that.
Yes. Cheers.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what we're always looking for, and you seem to have found it. Cool. Wow.
So for guys that are listening on our call, missing middle, if you don't have never really heard of that term, it's basically that middle component as you're not a small like low development, meaning like a house or a duplex or a triplex. You're not a small development, but you're also not a skyscraper.
Yeah.
So the city of Ottawa has spent a lot of energy and effort into looking into the missing middle because they know that in Ottawa, we're not Toronto. We're not Vancouver.
To live is that
Mhm.
that missing middle, and that's the least we have. We have tons of single houses and lots of big, but not much in the middle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Not much in the middle. And they know that Ottawa, we're very different in that Ottawa people, like residents, don't necessarily want to live in skyscrapers.
No.
No.
Yeah. And they don't necessarily, and we're getting to a point where we're at the highest senior level. Most of the population is in the senior level right now.
Yeah.
So they know that there's a lot of older people that are downsizing. They're using these bungalows, but they're not necessarily going to want to stay there.
No.
And they don't necessarily want to go to skyscrapers either, because that's a really big jump. You're going to go from like living your own in a house to a skyscraper. Yeah, like it's not going to happen, right? So they know we need more of this missing middle housing where it's a lower scale, low development, maybe 3, 4, 5 stories max. And it allows you to still have amenities and space and enough space, and you're not crammed in either. It's not like a 500 square foot apartment here.
No,
it's kind of like,
1,200 square feet.
yeah, you know, something nice that you can downsize but not feel like you're in a skyscraper. So that's the missing middle. And the city, that's why they're changing this R4 zoning, and that's why they're changing all this intensification, because they want this to happen more, and they're pushing for that.
Oh,
It's
great.
a nice
It's good news.
intensification.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice way. Like you're not building a 65-story skyscraper next to bungalows. Like you're
Yes.
slowly
Yeah.
increasing. So it's
And we've seen a lot of those downtown. And I don't know how many times I said to François, I said, I'm not retiring in a skyscraper.
yeah, it's like
No.
it's a little high, like 50th
It,
floor. So I'm not quite comfortable.
Yeah,
with
I
that.
said I want to find
I know.
smaller buildings that are 3 or 4 stories. When you said that, I thought that was funny. I'm like, yes, I keep saying that.
Well, Jennifer always wants to know where the fireman, the ladder, where it ends. I think it's 7th floor.
It's 7 floors.
She's not going any higher than 7.
You're like, no, not gonna happen.
But between the 3rd floor and the 7th floor, that's kind of my sweet spot. Because then you're not so low that you're like at traffic level, and then you're not so high that the firemen can't get to you.
Exactly.
You're so right. You're so right. And that's what it is here in Ottawa, is that people want that kind of living more and more, as opposed to living in like skyscrapers and all that. So we're trying to fill that gap. And I find like my communications with the city have been so positive, because they acknowledge that, and they acknowledge the efforts that we're putting into it to try to meet that. So
Great.
I know a lot of people talk to me about the city and this, and I'm not saying it's easy, but I like to be more in a collaborative kind of state with the city, yeah. And I communicate a lot with them. So in that sense, you know, I find that it's been helpful. They're very helpful to me in that sense, because they know what we're trying to do, and they support it. So far it's been great.
Yes, and if you have to deal with them every day, you're better to be positive than to be negative.
Totally. Absolutely.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, Ottawa's got so much potential, and we're kind of at a turning point because we have 1 million. The population surpassed 1 million people.
Yeah.
We have a lot of land, lots of resources, but it is also putting a strain on the budget and things.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell, like the roads and stuff, some of it's quite old, some of it's newer. So it's important that they plan carefully, and with all the money pumped into the LRT, that's a lot of investments.
Huge.
And so yeah, it's enormous. Like it's the new Toronto. That's how my parents lived in Toronto in the late 1970s, and my mom says it reminds her of how Toronto felt in the late 1970s. Yeah. It was kind of a quieter city, and then invested massively in the subway, and then they extended to Scarborough in the early 80s. And then it just boomed and went crazy. And
crazy.
The economy crashed a few times.
Well, it's time to be in real estate investments.
Yeah. And you know what, to your point about the LRT, have you guys heard of the terminology 15-minute neighborhoods?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Walking distance. Well, maybe Jennifer.
So I think you're always within 15 minutes of your work and your kind of day-to-day
services.
Exactly.
That's not
so.
Orleans is an hour everything.
Yes. So the city is really promoting the kind of idea of a 15-minute neighborhood, and they're creating new bylaws and new zoning as well. Yes. So these areas that are that are closest to the transit station are the ones that are going to be quote unquote called a 15-minute neighborhood. So the city is pushing for people to use more of the transit, to use those lands that are closest to the LRT to use the entire envelope, essentially, to try to build more within that envelope. So as real estate investors, this is kind of cool because you can kind of see that, hey, if I own a piece of land close to the LRT and it's a good sized land and I have a good sized backyard, maybe eventually in the future, I'm going to be able to add a bump out and add, 2, 3, 4 more units, for example. Or maybe I could do some coach home in the back.
Yeah.
Or a laneway home, kind of like in Toronto terminology. And this is now, like, the city's really looking into creating the laws necessary to allow us investors to do that.
Yeah,
and this is awesome. Yeah, this is awesome because, as we all know, houses are getting more and more expensive to buy.
Oh, yes.
It's getting harder to buy multiple now. So if you are a real estate investor that maybe you have a nice piece of land close to transit, and it doesn't have to be LRT, by the way. It could be close to a park and ride, or it could be close to a big transit station. These are the lands that you could maximize eventually. At some point in time when the city catches up into changing all these laws and bylaws, you'll be able to do that kind of stuff. And that's another really good investment for us as real estate investors, is to look into these areas and see if you can buy them up now before the city goes and changes the zoning. Because like your other one.
Yeah, ends up $1 million more expensive than it was. So
yeah. That's exactly the same scenario. It's exactly that. So when you're analyzing a property and you see, hey, there's transit, maybe there's a coffee shop, maybe there's some restaurants, maybe there's a recreational or community center, or like a pool or something like that, then like all the check marks are there, and it's meeting that criteria that the city is going to eventually look into changing the zoning.
Oh, that's good. That's good. A good tip.
Yes. Very good.
When you start a project, from the moment that you purchase the project until you flip the paper, how long is that process about? Does it vary a lot, or is it always about this much time, or?
It always varies because every single project is different. Every single one. I've never been, I get asked a lot, can you use the same plans from one project? It's never happened. It's never happened. And there's many reasons. It would be amazing if I could. Like, it would save me so much time and energy and money too. But it's never happened because every lot is different. Every location is different. Every zoning is different. Like, there's just so many variables. So if I had to give you a time frame, minimum a year, it's
Okay.
always at least about a year, and it could go up to 4. It
Right.
depends on how large the project might be.
So the
But
land
when you look
assembly
at it,
is more the 4-year thing, I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
you need to
But
attend
when you
a
look
lot of.
at it in like real estate world, it's not that much
No, it's
because
true. It's short.
yeah, like I mean, unless you're like a flip person or you're a
That's
bird
really long
person,
then.
yeah.
that would be long. But if you're like a buy and hold, you know, or you're doing like multifamily and you have to get all the tenants out
Oh man, 4
before
years.
you can renovate, then you can get the new tenant in and stabilize the property. Like you're probably looking at about the same, roughly around a year or 2, maybe more, depending on the scale
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
of
thought
the
that was
project.
fast.
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Especially if you have, like you said, a property on it that's helping you
Yeah.
finance all this, so you're not holding all those costs for 4 years
yeah,
and 2 years or a year.
So,
exactly. It helps a lot.
yes. What do you see happening in 2021 in land development in
Yeah.
Ottawa?
Oh my gosh. So it's kind of crazy because I look at, so just so you guys know, I don't listen to news. I literally
That's a
on a
good
day-to-day,
Alright,
yes,
go ahead.
isn't it?
Take note,
It's,
everyone.
I feel like it's for my sanity. Like I cannot listen to news and I didn't even realize, like I know it's gonna sound really dumb, guys, but like I didn't realize COVID was like a pandemic, like because I wasn't even like
Until
really
soon, there's a
paying
lot
attention.
there.
Yeah, I could, you know, people tell me stuff, but I was like, really? And then it only hit me when the school shut down. And then our kids couldn't go to school and I was like, oh my God, like this is a real thing.
Yeah, it's really happening. The kids come
I was
back.
like, oh my God, this is crazy.
What do you mean you can't go to school?
What do you
I
mean?
wanted to go to
What are you
school.
talking about? That's basically it. But a few things I've kind of noticed. So in my small little bit of looking at the only news I actually look at is real estate stuff because I'm always keeping up with what's happening. So I know there's been quite a few layoffs, whether you know you're in the corporate world or maybe in the private world. There's been quite a few like layoffs. And then, of course, you have the government assistance, right, that is happening right now. That's even some people don't even want to go to work because they're getting this assistance and they're like, why do I have to go to work if I could just get my $2,000 a month and not work, essentially? But then I know that there's the IT sector is still booming, like crazy here in Ottawa. The e-commerce business is growing like crazy. Like Amazon is building another
Yeah, it's true.
larger distribution center in Barbados.
I don't know what happened with your sound on your phone. Did you?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you kind
Sorry
of
about
I
that.
don't know what happened.
It's
Technical
super.
difficulties.
Let me.
It was going so well. So yeah, some technical difficulties, but super exciting conversation. Oh, that's better.
I'm back. Am I back?
Yes.
Yes. So you said that Amazon is building a bigger distribution center than the one that's in the East End?
No, they built in Barhaven. They're building a second
Oh,
one.
really? I didn't even know.
Oh, yeah.
There's
She
not enough.
doesn't read the news.
I don't read the news.
Any news.
But it's just because there's so much. I need more hours in the day.
Yeah.
I
There's
know.
just so much stuff going on all of the time.
So much going on. Like I know, like you would spend all day just reading the news and stuff, but there is another distribution center happening in Barhaven, and there's also a really, really large production studio that is coming to Hunt Club as well. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you
it's
well.
much better now.
Can you hear
Okay,
me?
perfect. So there's another studio production. It's probably the largest in all of Canada, I think. It's coming to Hunt Club. I don't know if you guys knew about that one.
Oh, wow.
So that's all of these jobs and all of these IT sectors. They're creating so many jobs that are coming directly here in Ottawa. And the reason why these companies are coming here is because Ottawa has the fundamentals, right? We have the stability, we have the government jobs, we have the infrastructure that the city's putting in place. It's a place, it's a still family place, so a lot of people are bringing their families here. We have a lot of immigration. There's just so universities. There's so much of the fundamentals that we have here that a lot of companies realize that, and they're like, we're going to come in and build these infrastructures, and they're not cheap infrastructures either. These are really large, complex infrastructures that they're putting in.
It's
So
long
for
term. It's not,
what's that?
yeah, it's long term. It's not like a Walmart
Yeah.
15-year land lease.
Exactly. So I honestly, I think that in Ottawa, I think we're going to be quite stable. I don't really see it, I don't really see it dipping. Like it will dip in the sense that it's fall and it's winter, and it always dips in the fall and the winter.
Yeah.
But I don't see it really going that direction that I think a lot of people are thinking. In general, we're really lucky in Ottawa just because we're in a bubble. Like we're always kind of in that bubble because of the government.
Yeah.
But I don't see it dipping that much. Like I know a lot of people are looking at that and they're saying, yeah, it's, you know, in 8 months from now we're going to see like a huge dip. I just don't see it when I read everything that companies are bringing in and that they're building and all of these new jobs that are going to be created. I'm hoping that that's going to really keep it stable for us.
Yes. Well, I'm pretty sure.
But maybe that's me positive thinking.
No,
Yeah, you just said you don't read the news, so.
That too, I don't read the news.
Yes, you just told us a bunch of news, so that's
You're in the know. We know who to talk to. Government Town. Yeah, Government Town is good. Definitely.
Yep.
There's Mimi Do Social. Mimi Do, sorry.
I think it's Mimi Do Social.
Mimi Do.
I'm sorry, we probably,
Mimi
yeah.
Glasses.
It's because it's so small on the screen. Sorry about that. But that's also from Ottawa. It's a government town, like you said. It's very stable. It's a great place to invest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very stable.
Best, and it's
a great place to live as well.
It's a red hot market, but I wouldn't say it's completely overheated. So it's not like Toronto where houses have skyrocketed more and more. Like, and they'll still keep going up, I think, in Toronto, but we're still not there. We're still affordable. Like, we're not, but in my opinion, but we are really, if you compare it to a lot of places in the world. Like, you come here and people are like, well, the cost of living isn't that bad compared to the salaries. And we were just comparing with Australia. Why were we doing that?
I don't remember why we were doing that.
For some reason, we're comparing how much would it cost in Australia versus
Toronto does weird things like that all of the time, but we were comparing it anyway. Australia has a higher cost of living.
Yeah, so they have higher salaries, but a house on average costs $100,000 more. So you're already starting with more, but they have more kids out there. They usually have 5 or 6.
So the kids the kids are going to cost more.
I don't know. So we need Carina to develop some land there.
Yeah, in Australia.
We should go there.
Yes.
It's warmer than Canada anyway.
Totally.
Wow, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us about what you do. And
yes, I feel like I really learned some things about land development in Ottawa. I almost want to give a shot at it, or
yeah.
You know, I always tell people there's a lot of resources for anybody who kind of wants to learn a little bit more about zoning and just understanding where are these areas within the LRT. So there is an interactive map for any of you guys who don't maybe use it yet. It's called Geo Ottawa.
It's a great tool.
Yeah, you've used it? It's a great tool. You can zone into the address and figure out what is the zoning, what can you do, what can you not do. Is it within the LRT station? So it helps you kind of analyze a little bit. And you can kind of learn about a different perspective, a different perspective of, instead of just can I burr this or can I flip this? Maybe it gives you a little bit of a insight into what the city is looking at doing. And of course, official plans, secondary plans, transit development plans, all of these plans are available to anybody. They're all public. Anybody looking to learn a little bit more about how is the city changing and which are the areas that are expected to be changed, they're available. Maps. The city puts all of this information out there for anybody to see. It's not, it's Geo Ottawa. Somebody's asking, what is the website? Geo?
Ottawa.
Yeah, it's super
like
easy to find.
geography.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's geo like geography Ottawa.
Yeah.
that's
really
it.
To use, it's crazy. Oh, we have investor Mel and Dave watching us. Cool.
Yes.
So
Hi, guys.
some stuff there. So actually, with Mel and Dave, with the mentoring program that we took, we were looking at a property. It was a triplex in Ottawa, but the zoning was for a single house RU, so rural, on septic, and they had 2 illegal units. So that could have gone very bad.
But it was because we listened to the advice of Mel and Dave that we didn't buy that one.
So that
Good advice.
Yes,
Good advice. I'm glad you guys looked into the zoning on that.
GeoCities and
but when we were noobs, we might have gotten too excited about the whole.
Was a good price.
Oh, it's a great price, 3 units, and then we had started the mentoring program with Mel and Dave, and they're like, oh, you gotta really make sure you look into zoning. And when we did, we're like, oh, okay, no, this is not so exciting.
Good.
Yeah, and we were getting even a vendor take back on the property, the owner.
Are you
finance some of it? We're like, this is too sweet. There's something off about this. And
too good to be true?
really too good to be true.
But anyway.
That's why it's good to, that's why I would say, when you're in real estate, yes, learn as much as you can. Yes, go to any event, webinar, something like this. It's amazing. Or walking groups like we have.
Yeah,
but
we're down a walk soon.
Yes, I love our walks. And but the big part of going to all of these events and going to these webinars or these walks is to network, right? Is to network and meet people who are going to help you get better at what you're doing. And it doesn't mean that you have to be good at everything, because you don't. You don't have to be. That's why I said I have my whole team, right? And there's a reason for that. I'm sure Mel and Dave have the same, and you guys as well in your business. Is you have the team in place to help you succeed, and you don't need to know everything. Essentially, you just have to know the right people and surround yourself with those people.
The right people, like the right club.
There you go. But that's so important, because you have to really take action, and then like you did with your first land development, you bought that bungalow, and you took action, and then you sort of learned along the way, and that helped you kind of position yourself to build that team and to be able to advance
and grow, and
exactly. And you gain the confidence, and then you gain all of the insider knowledge that you would have never had before that, and then you can kind of go a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. And I'm sure you guys doing this the same, right? It's the same principles.
Yeah, I love.
You just have to grow.
That was your guinea pigs. I'm like, yeah, so we've had a few guinea pigs ourselves.
Yeah. We bought in New Brunswick, so we have a guinea pig there. We bought a rental cottage that's a bit of a guinea pig as well. So they're all models we're kind of exploring, and then see how we can scale from there. Buy and hold, like yourself, it's easy. You buy it and put tenants in it. You're like, okay, boring. What's next?
Yep.
So
exactly.
When we had our walk, when you talked about the land development, I'm like, oh my goodness, we need to talk to her more.
Yes.
I'm always here, guys. Anytime.
So thank you so much for sharing with us. And if anyone's not following Carina yet, please go and follow her. She's doing very interesting things. A great real estate investor. Her and her husband, Dave, you said?
Yes, Dave.
We'll have to meet Dave sometime. And,
at some point. You'll get to meet him.
I see Jared, so a wholesaler, and Jared we met a few times.
Nice. Another real estate investor in Peterborough.
Yeah. So
awesome.
We need some deals, Jared. I need some properties in Cornwall. So we've been meaning to meet for a while, and we have some properties there, and I just want more. So anyway.
Yes, it's never enough for him.
No, more.
Me too. I'm the same.
Oh.
I'm the same.
You're the gas pedal and she's the brake, so your husband is the brake then?
Yes, Dave must be the brake.
I kind of.
Yes.
It comes from Mandy Brenham, the
Yes,
JV queen.
he's the gas in the car and I'm the brake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So
Love
slow
it.
down, and I say no, speed up.
Yes. But the good thing is, push on the gas and the brake at the same time, the brake always wins.
Yeah. Look, he needs to roll his eyes. He's like,
Wow.
Anyway, thanks
awesome.
everyone for listening and have a good night, Carina.
And
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes, and don't forget the wine.
Yes.
Cheers.
Yes,
Cheers.
yes, I got my wine here.
Yes.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.